Welcome to Make It Your Business, the podcast. Get the advice you need to grow your business by getting guidance from industry experts and interviews with successful small business owners. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.
Thank you. Right, let's check the tech works. So just the right-hand button, is it? There we are. We're working. Right, so let's get some context here. You've got one speaker and somebody who's also starting a journey. So I've got a lot of experience I want to talk to you about today with the business side. But my journey at the moment is speaking. So I'm starting to do these gigs. So some of the stuff I'm going to try today and talk you through may work, may not. I'm not very good at talking at people, so I'm going to need you to get involved in this situation. So stop me at any points if you've got any questions. I may prompt you. I understand from the team here that you're all on a journey with MVPs, thinking about business. What's not helpful when I try and help people is very generic questions. So if you've got something specific about what you're doing, I will try my best to help. If not, I'll refer it to my colleague over here. So, as I said, I'm going to make this up as I go along per se, because I really want to see where we end up. I've got a few important things I want to talk to you about today. So I've been in business now for 25 years, and as a general rule of thumb, this is what I found to be the key performers in my businesses. So marketing, you obviously sat here, so you've got an indication of that. Mindset, and then the sales functions. So now I'm going to start talking about mindset first. I've got some really dodgy pictures, but this is me. I look very happy in business, don't I? Everything's going well, making lots of money. Well, this is also me. Okay? This journey is hard, okay? It's also extremely rewarding. So there's no other business I'd rather be in than in business. You're working with people, you're solving problems. The sense of purpose you can get from this journey is like nothing else that I've ever experienced. And we'll talk a bit about it, but I've got a fairly wide, broad spectrum. So it is hard. Do not expect this to be all roses. I'm trying to impart today some realism. It's really good. We're going to hopefully teach you some bits, but you've got to get your A game on, yeah? So I'm going to talk about marketing. It's a touchscreen, isn't it? That's a funny story, because Chris has got a thing about he doesn't like his laptop screen to be touched. Well, I seem to touch everything without even realising it. So, but this is a real graph, okay? So I believe it or not, there's not much data behind it other than my feelings. But as I said, I've been in business a lot of years, and during this first 10, 15 years, I struggled. I was putting the hours in, I was reading the books, until I started to embrace the marketing, the mindset approach, which I'm going to start to go through now. I didn't get any traction, yeah? I bought myself a job, and this is not what the journey's about. For me personally, the journey's about the sense of freedom that you get from owning your own business. I warn you now, that often means you'll work more hours than you would. But it does mean you can also, where were we? 3 years ago, the pandemic messes up my time frame. But I was fortunate enough, I took a year and a half off and I went traveling. So you get a sense of that ability, yeah? So I just want to put this into motion, that the things I'm going to talk to you about, I've only really been actioning these last sort of 5 years. The first 15 years, I was struggling. And my hope, as I spoke to Alexa about, is I can try and impart some things on you. You see the shaking cup? Good. So what qualifies me to try and give you some advice? So I've been a business owner for 23 years. I had to work that out. I've grown and exited 2 businesses. So I've been on the sales side. I've purchased 4 businesses. That's not to show off. That is just to tell you that not only have I had my experience, but when I go into these businesses, we often buy them to repair, and I see common things over and over again. Obviously, the businesses I currently have, we do about 10 million. I told you, didn't I? I touched things. About 10 million at the moment. It is set to grow, but we're across a spectrum of industries. The other thing I like to point out to people is I have real businesses. So I have an engineering business, we have the marketing business, we've got business that fits garage doors, constructional engineering. it gives me a very unique perspective, I believe. I'm not standing here just as a marketing agency owner, because they've got a very classroom-fed, no offense to any, but, I genuinely believe I've got a very unique position. We don't spend money on things that don't work in our business. So we don't go to a client and go, hey, pay us to do all these social media posts if it's not going to work for that particular industry. So again, if you've got ideas, do stop and ask, because somebody will say to me, oh, what should I do with marketing? And it does depend what product, who you're aiming it at. For example, we've got a client who's looking to target elderly people. There's no other way to say it. We do a lot of work with them on Bing. So the Bing search engine comes preloaded on the machines. They buy from PC World. They start the machine up. They don't download Chrome. They don't go to Google. They're not searching on TikTok. So we focus where we're going with our messaging, which I'll talk to you in a bit. I'm sure on these courses you already know about building personas and focusing who your client is. But it's super important. So again, any questions, please make them specific. I'll try and help. And I'm straight talking nice guy. So I am nice. I can sometimes be a little do this, do that. So please just, bear with me. Best intentions. Okay, so some rules for today. We all like rules. Please stop and ask me questions. As I say, I'm very early in this journey of talking, but it's happening right now. So I'm starting to get nervous. Then I start hearing the sound of my own voice. And this is something that, genuinely, I believe I've just got to overcome with practice. And if each of you are in your own journey, you'll again have some form of presentation, talk, journey to get through, whether that's talking to your staff, clients, or talks like this, yeah? So please, just stop me. Anyone got a question? Oh, come on. Yeah, so as I say, more workshop than talk. There's no good me leaving here and I haven't added value. Complete waste of my time, okay? I'll be very honest with that. I'm a busy man. So I want to leave here knowing that at least one of you's got something out of this that goes, that was worth my time, that was worth your time, yeah? Perfect. These will be the worst slides you've ever seen. I'm not a designer, you'll see. But I figured it doesn't matter. I figured as long as there's something on there for you to focus and remind me so I don't get the dreaded brain melt. Obviously, I'm more nervous than you are. You probably tell that already. And I will go off tangent. Quite often I'm talking to staff about something and I go off on a story and you'll hear me say, where was I? I've tried to change it. It just doesn't work. So, okay. First thing I want to talk about really is mindset. And let's say the last 5 years have been very interesting to me. I'm a very logical thinker. So from an engineering background, it works very well with marketing. I'll talk to you a bit more about that, but as an agency, we're very data driven. So we do something, we measure it, we improve it. And that is in itself an innovation, but it's a very systematical approach to gain improvements for our clients, and it works each and every time. But something I've learned over the last 5 years, and I'm not going to profess to be the best teacher of this, but is mindset. Okay, so this was actually, I copied and pasted this element from a slide, a presentation I did to existing business owners. Now, a lot of existing business owners suffer majorly with stress, yeah? So we got some stats. I wanted to point this out early on because I just wish I'd known this at an earlier age. If I'd learned these skills early on, I just know I would have got there quicker. So they're random stats, but they have a reference here. But, there's lots of people that are fretting, stress, becoming overwhelmed. Yeah? So I want to talk about a few tools today, and some of these will feel soft, whimsical, whatever adjective you want to use. But I implore you to go off and look into these because as I say, very, very logical approach, quite a masculine alpha approach to my business orientation. But since I've learned just these soft skills, I've seen unparalleled growth in the businesses. So, visualization. Certainly when you're involved, and I do appreciate your early stages, you're going to be involved in the journey. You're going to be so wrapped up. I can't explain how important it is to take a time to actually sit down, visualizing and plotting. Now, it can be on a very logical. So we have in our businesses, we have quarterly meetings, and we have once a year where we plan the whole year ahead. Yeah? So we forget about what's going on within the business, and we say, what are the I wants? What are the goals? How do we move on? But it can also be soft stuff. I sincerely have all my best ideas just driving in the car. I do a lot of driving. So I've actually come up from Devon today, last night. But I have businesses all over the country. So Cardiff, Leeds, Milton Keynes. So I'm in the car a lot. It's a fantastic time for me to learn. I listen to a lot of podcasts. You never stop learning, getting somebody's point of view. But try and look into visualization. It's made a world of difference because you just cannot see the wood from the trees when you're in it. And as I say, these may seem whimsical at this stage, but trust me, when the wheels start turning, you're going to need to understand these. Manifestations. Now, this is an area that always sparks a little bit of controversy. From a nervous disposition of explanation of my logic to it, how far do I go with this? We all know that the world is energy, vibrations, that no one can actually understand it. But when you're in a state of stress, you go looking for solutions that are not just logical. And I did a lot of reading about manifestation, lots of learning, and then I started implying it. Now, every single thing that I've ever purposely sat down and manifest has happened. So I'll give you two stories. So one, I wanted to buy a business of a certain size. It looks like it wasn't going through. I sat down, I manifested it. I felt myself in there. What would I do? How would I do it? How would I feel? It also goes to silly things. So we were at a Christmas fair with the kids, and there was a Le Creuset honey pot. And one of the girls wanted it. So, and it's like one of these tickets, 1 in 100. And again, I just took a few moments just to and I know how this sounds, but until you've tried it and understand the power of this, and I just thought through how I'd feel holding that jar, how I'd use it, and it came true. And I'm not talking wishfully here. As I say, I need you to understand, I'm extremely logical. I talk to my business partners about this stuff all the time. I still find it strange. Yeah, but there's something in it I can't explain, but I implore you to just look at that, go deep into that subject. It will make a world of difference to your requirements. Journaling. Again, this comes more from a position of existing businesses. If you're, I did a talk to 25 existing business owners, and they really resonated with this part, which was the decompression. Leaving things in your mind. The subconscious is super powerful. It will solve half your problems in the shower. But there's an element here where writing it down just says to your brain, right, we got this, and allow you, because work-life balance is very unique. One of the first questions that we were talking through earlier, about, are you working 7 days a week now, 5? And I said, well, I'm down to 5, but I'm being forced by my wife and kids more than anything, because I'm in these journey states. But certainly I can be present with my kids more if I've certainly decompressed. I've also had spats of insomnia myself personally, particularly stressful contract negotiations, things that are going on far too long for me. And like I say, this will help you when you get to those tough times. Any questions on this so far? I thought we agreed early on you were going to ask questions. No one's got any questions. Perfect. Talking. Something in the entrepreneurial journey with lots of people that I speak to, existing business owners. If you're fortunate enough to have a partner, business partner or life partner that is interested in your subject, it's amazing. You've got someone to share with, but often enough, statistically, you haven't. Finding networks for like-minded people is not just for sales. Yeah, you can go to network meetings. Even within this group, you've all clearly got a unique set of positions that have brought you to this room. You have a like-minded connection. Having each other to lean on, or when we go forward with mentors, etc., do lean on those people. I like nothing more than trying to help somebody, and that's the truth. So if somebody comes up to me and is like, hey, what do you think of this or that? I'm in my element. I'm like, oh, wait, let's talk this out. What about this? People out there want to help, so please don't go it alone. Not in your head. This can seriously burn you out with all the things you're going to have to do. These soft skills are super important. I mean, each one of these could be a week's course. So, and there's people far more qualified. I'm just telling you, last 5 years, I've started to understand this more. It's made a big difference. Last one is action. Okay, so you're going to come to a point, or multiple points on a regular basis actually, but you're going to feel somewhat paralysed, stressed, emotional. And my particular experience in this is it's all fear-based. Yeah, it's all fear, and that's how I can drill it down. And the only time I've ever got out of a feel state is to take action. So like I said, I'm a very logical person, and I like to look at the facts, analyse and take the action. To build customers is a process to me. Yeah, there is lots of information out there through talks like this, the internet, how to build clients, and it's a huge subject. But the point is, if you sit with that question, you won't solve it. You're not magically going to wake up one morning and go, da-da. You have to analyse, you have to receive the data, come to talks like this. YouTube is the most I don't know what my parents did. I can learn anything. And there's several times I've had to learn whole subjects when acquiring a business in a short, it's there at our fingertips. And I use the word analyse rather than getting the facts because, again, something I learned early on, everything you see on the internet is an opinion, yeah? Opinions are like arseholes, everyone's got one, yeah? So, as crude as that sounds, I say that to myself all the time. But just because somebody's told you something doesn't make it truth or fact, yeah? Even if it's a shared belief, yeah? So, go down these rabbit holes. So we can talk a bit more in a moment about how I would look to acquire customers when we get to that point. But I'd like to know what you're thinking, because as I said, if you're looking at a client base that is 13 to 17, we're going to be talking about, acquiring audiences on TikTok, versus, as I said, Bing for older generations. If it's B2B, B2C, very, very different, yeah? And then taking action. As I say, I'm very aware when I put this slideshow together, this resonated very much with talks I've done with experienced business people. And I was very aware that this may not resonate with you. But I was like, well, actually, this is super important to talk this through. Because as I say, if I'd known this 20 years ago, I'd be a lot further in my journey than I am now. So, any questions on that? No? Ta-da! Sales. So this is the sort of 50s, 1980s typical. Certainly my generation thinks sales, negative. But sales is the journey for any company, full stop. So get comfortable with it. Whether you do it, whether you have somebody else do it. Sales actually equates to, I can't remember the stat now, but it's something like, the top 6% earners in the world are ultimately salespeople. But certainly culturally, where I live in the UK, and I don't know internationally, it's probably very different, but sales is kind of a dirty word. Parents certainly orientate their children based on their pride, and sort of go, go and be a doctor. But you've decided this entrepreneurial journey, you cannot do this without sales. We've created some very, very successful businesses, great products, super staff. There has to be a sales element into it. So again, I try and implore that onto people because, again, YouTube has got some phenomenal sales training videos. And it's just, sales is not, people use the word persuasion, or if you've got a very good product that genuinely helps people, I like to reframe it in my mind, it's not selling. I'm trying to help as many people as I can. But it's something that people need to get their heads at, because I think when we grow up, culturally in school, sales, as I say, is a very, very dirty word. I can only talk from my cultural experience, but yeah, it's a key part that you need to really weave into your journey. I'm going to talk about things in a moment, how you build up sort of a plan for your business in that journey. But people are not, there's a famous film, Kevin Costner, wasn't it? Build it and they will come. Is anyone aware of that reference? It's bollocks. It's a great film, but it really won't. They will not come. You have to take purposeful actions. We've had clients that on both ends of the spectrum have come to us to get sales through marketing activities and sales process. But we got one recently that came to us that has 250,000 followers on YouTube, Twitter, no sales. Can't get any sales. Yeah, so we're going to talk a bit about that in a minute, because this mumbo jumbo people talk to you about building audience, social media. It's not factually true. There's always the hype stories. There's methodologies based on what you're doing, but essentially you need to, we'll talk in a minute about that, go to where your clients are. If they happen to be congregating, so this particular client is a translator come, they do Italian lessons. And what they hadn't realised until they spoke to us is, they've got a massive audience of people that want their free Italian lessons. That doesn't pay the bills. Yeah, so we're obviously re-honing that to put them in a direction to find clients that will pay for their services. But again, it's a sales orientation, So, is it Plato's Law, I think it's called? 80-20 rule. When it comes to business, so when we go in and acquire a business, we often look at what they've been doing and we say, right, well, how can we get more out of this business? So we're not necessarily looking at more sales, more profit, or squeezing the supply chain or anything like that at this stage. The first thing we look at is what tasks are they doing that they can either stop doing, or they can delegate, or they can outsource. As entrepreneurs, you're going to start this journey where you're going to say, it's all on my shoulders. I've got to do everything. And it's partly true when you get started, unless you're well funded, and well, it's still on your shoulders, but different journey. But you have to get to a point where you understand 20% of your actions are going to give you 80% of your output. So you need to try and stop doing the other 80%. It's really hard to understand as you go through that journey, where you do not want to be, answering the phone, going back to email. All of these time-consuming, low-level fruit that you're picking off, that you're perceiving is adding value to your client, can be dealt with by somebody else. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't require effort, because you may need to create a call script. You may need to create a frequently asked questions, everything that somebody else would need in order to do that. But you can get somebody else to do that, whether it's outsourcing. You've all heard of websites like Fiverr, I assume. Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of outsourced websites that they will conduct tasks far better than you can. I'm not looking at you directly, far better than you. But no, what I mean is you're going to find a certain skill set within your business organisation that you are very, very good at, and you're the only person that can solve that problem. So this is an exercise. Now, when I've tried these talks before and they're actually doing it, I say, right, stop now, get a partner. We were talking about this earlier, where we sort of getting people involved. I think the fact that you're in this early stage, it would just be hypothesizing. It might be a waste of time. But try and lock down. There's some very good books on the 80-20 to understand those principles in depth. That it's more they say the same thing over and over in different connotations to try and get it in. But you have to be very clear with yourself. Whatever success looks like to you, you will be required to concentrate on only that 20% of the business function, the one that moves the needle. Yeah? So again, I'm talking about this. It seems whimsical, but if I'd known that 15 years ago, but I tried to do everything. I tried to answer the emails, do that, update the website, do this, keep it low cost. When you're in the pits and you're starting, I get that. But very quickly you've got to identify, well, actually, if I paid a web developer to do that, then I could do this and I'd make 10 grand, they only want 2. And that's how I try and make my decisions. Where do I put my allocation of my time or capital? The website's a bad idea because we do websites. But it could be list gathering, data, social media posting, recruiting. If you've got any business of any size, it's going to rely on people, whether you're recruiting PAYE staff or whether you're recruiting contractors, freelancers. Very good form, but you still have to hire them. You still have to interview. You still need to make sure they're aligned with your journey.